Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. I just woke up and you know what that means? It's time for a Decathlon video. This time around it's balanced Decathlon, which low-key I was kind of dreading to make this video just because balanced Decathlon is one of the annoying Decathlons out of the 7. And from what it seems like, I think this is my last Decathlon video, like 1 through 5 edition. I think eventually what I will do is whenever the next Decathlons come back, I'll like do the next set of, stages. So people can like eventually watch those because I don't want to do them all at once because I got other stuff to do. So it's good to just have this like kind of just like go back and forth type thing. But in today's video, of course, balance decathlon. We'll go over the setup, we'll go over the strat, and of course, I will do it in real time and go over the strat, of course. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord. Appreciate everyone that's been joining Discord. I think we're at like 1.7k members, like around there, as well as I appreciate all you guys that have been subscribing. I know I haven't been making videos consistently like I've always been, but that's because I've been busy with college, and a lot of you guys are understanding of that, which I appreciate. But yeah, you guys have been subscribing like crazy. A lot of you guys, appreciate all the new subscribers. We're already close to 6k. The amount of subscribers we've gained from me not uploading is insane, which I can't fathom. But yeah, anyways, let's get back into the decathlon stuff. So as always, let's go over the deck real quick, just like what deck I'm using. I use a Darkmoor deck. Now you can use whatever deck, as always, right? Preferably one that has a square socket, but we do use a Darkmoor deck for a specific reason. Now if we compare it to, I guess we can compare it to Shibalba, right? Just as a, as a comparison, you can see that roughly almost everything looks the same except max copies and sideboard. Max copies I don't really care about, but we're really focusing on the sideboards. You get those 4 extra copies, or 4 extra sideboards, I mean, from the Darkmoor deck. You don't get that from the traditional Reaver deck, Shibalba deck, etc. So that's why Darkmoor deck is a little bit more viable for that reasoning. And we're crafting the one that specifically has a square socket. Reason being is because we can socket on those HP jewels. Of course, according to your school, you'll have different HP values. Death and life are more predominant. So definitely, if you are a life wizard, Decathlon is probably going to be one of your favorite things because life has the highest health jewels for square sockets, if I remember. So it's pretty easy to do it on a life regardless. But anyways, just have a Darkmoor deck with a square socket, put on some HP. Now, I'm not going to include this in the video, but I do want to I'm not going to include it in the strat, but I do want to include this as well, is these jewels, these Maycast jewels. Now, these Maycast jewels are nice to have. Now, you don't have to have the death one because we'll be using balance hits, because balance decathlon, and at least for this strat, you can go farm these jewels from the rat. Wiki has it wrong. Wiki don't know when to update it, but you can farm these from the rat. It's literally only the rat. Balbiaga doesn't drop them anymore. So, hey, if you want to go farm these Maycast jewels, go for it. But I wouldn't recommend it just because of how annoying it is to farm them. So there's that, or you can open packs, but they're not included in the strat. It's not needed, but I do want to just quickly go over that. Now, the pet. We are using a traditional same pet as we've always used in every single video. Except for, like, the Ice Decathlon, if I remember. I don't remember, but traditional heal pet, unicorn, frozen kraken, oh, wellcast frozen kraken, sorry, and then fairy, healing current, sprite queen, and then socket on Pigsy. Now I know some people have been talking to me in DMs and just been pointing it out to me. Hey, what if I have sprite? That's fine. Like, genuinely, that's fine. Main thing is you just need frozen kraken with a bunch of heals. Now, of course, unicorn is valuable. Fairy, healing current, those are really good heals. The sprite in a sprite queen situation, yes, sprite queen's a little bit better, but sprite is completely fine too. Now, when it comes to socket, Pigsy, very nice to have. I know not everyone has the Pigsy jewel though, so they get into this predicament of what do I socket on? Well, you can realistically socket on whatever you want, any type of Maycast. You can honestly even socket on Maycast Brace. Now, I know some people are going to be like, why would you ever socket that on? But realistically, if you don't have Pigsy and you don't have a socket called Maycast Unicorn from the Scroll of Fortunes, then you can honestly socket on Maycast Brace. You can socket on one of the Maycast Shields. Those do exist. Eventually, I should make a video on like jewels and stuff like that, which eventually down the line, right? But honestly, Pigsy should be like your top priority, and then after that it can be like Brace, and then after that any type of Maycast Shield. Or if you have Maycast Unicorn, then you want to put like another sprite on here, for example. Like if you want Maycast Sprite and Sprite Queen with Fairy, Healing Current, and Frozen Kraken, that's fine, and then you can just socket on Unicorn. But not everyone has that Maycast Unicorn jewel from the Scroll of Fortune, which is the only annoying thing, because it's only from a specific Scroll of Fortune, and you have to be around during that time. So there's that. And then when it comes to the pet, it doesn't have to be on an old dragon. I know people get this twisted. Does it have to be on an old dragon? No, the card doesn't affect anything. It's just put it on whatever pet. It can be literally any pet. People have it on like a bunch of ghoul pets or like life bats or like just bats or whatever. It doesn't really matter. You just need the talents. That's the main key. You need these talents. So that is the basic premise of the pet, what deck, and yeah, if you want to farm out that jewel, but we're not going to worry about it too much. But when it comes to deck setup, this is what we're using. Yes, it looks weird. Yes, I know. But that is Bounce Decathlon in a nutshell. Now, when I get to certain stages, I will have to do a little bit more deep diving because explaining certain things, right? And certain aspects of what the mob might do, because it's a little bit RNG of what the mob's going to do, and you have to react depending on that. So on those certain stages, we'll clarify those, and hopefully you guys get a better understanding. But make sure you have your Ice Guardians. You can buy these. Yes, well, I'll show you guys after I show you the deck setup. But Ice Guardian, Tower Shield, you can just get from the Librarian. Fairy, you can get from the Librarian. Spirit Armor, you can get from the Librarian. Locust Worms, make sure you have the correct amount, and you can get those from the Librarian. Sandstorms, same thing. And then LE Shields, same thing. Now the Ice Guardian, I was about to say Frozen Guardian. The Ice Guardian, you can't get these from the traditional Librarians and Arcanum. You actually have to go to Dbop Crown. So if you're trying to get here, it's Dbop Crown Library right here. So you can just go over here and interact with this guy. You should have your treasure card. You only need one, so keep that in mind. I just bought a bunch just for the purpose of the video. If I need to do extra attempts to just like, you know, point out certain things, but that's realistically it. Also, shout out to Logan and Shabazz, because keep in mind, I can't make these Decathlon videos without them because they help me create all the strats, and I just cover them on the channel because I know a lot of people want to do Decathlon, but some people prefer visual stuff, and I'm more of a visual learner myself, so that's why I do these types of videos. But when it comes to strat, shout out to Logan, shout out to Shabazz. Now let's go over our Decathlon stuff. So make sure you guys claim your credits. Credits do carry over to the next day, but you have to claim them. So if I claimed them, you know, 3 today or whatever, right, as I claim them, I get 3. Let's say I don't do a run today and I want to do it tomorrow, I'll still have my 3 credits, but you can claim another 3 tomorrow, and then you have 6, and you can keep building them up if you want to. They don't carry over to the next Decathlon for some reason. Some people were asking me that. Yeah, no, they don't carry over to the next Decathlon. But yeah, make sure you guys read these little things too. I'm not going to clarify them just because I've done Decathlon videos so many times. And yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Also, when it comes to having Frozen Kraken on your pet, make sure you guys feed your pet, because if you don't have happiness on your pet, you can't cast Frozen Kraken. So just have whatever snacks. I'm just using Captain Cantaloupes just because I'm too lazy to find my other snacks. But yeah, just feed it whatever snacks in order to just build up happiness. So there's that. But let's get into the first fight, so stage 1.1. This time around, usually what I do is what I would traditionally do, just kill it just to spend less time. But since this is a little bit more of a harder Decathlon, we're actually going to be using Willcast Frozen Kraken. So we're actually going to be passing for the first 2 rounds, so then we can use our Frozen Kraken. Now, of course, over time, you'll take damage because the mobs will do damage, and that's just expected. And there we go, 2 rounds have passed. You can use your Frozen Kraken, and then you can see right here the 35 happiness that gets used from this whole 854 that I have. So over time, it will get used, but just remember to feed your pet with snacks, so then you can actually use Frozen Kraken. But yeah, cast Frozen Kraken, and then you can pass, and basically the dragon will just cast it and then kill it. And there you go, stage 1.1 completed. So now we move on to stage 1.2. Here we are at 1.2, so now we actually have 2 mobs. And what we're actually going to be doing is using Locust Swarm. Doesn't really matter in this particular fight, so use Locust Swarm on any of them. I particularly use it on the newer mob. But yeah, use Locust Swarm on the newer mob, and then Frozen Kraken the other. So we'll just wait till we get pips till we can use Frozen Kraken and use Locust Swarm. Okay, so now we have 3 pips, so we can use Locust Swarm. And if you fizzle, not a big deal. Just cast it again the next round. But let's use Locust Swarm and kill one of the mobs. Okay. And then now we have Frozen Kraken available, and we can just kill the Desert Crawler, and then we're done with this stage. Well, at least this particular fight. There we go, we got our runes and etc. So now we can move on to, I guess, what I consider the boss of the stage. That's how I always clarify it, but 1.3. And what we're going to be doing in here is we're also going to have our fairy in case we want to keep it in our hand, because as you guys saw, I didn't get any health back from my pet, and that is something that's RNG dependent. So if I feel like I need to, I can fairy, but we're going to wait a little bit, and we're not going to do it instantly because we still have to wait 2 rounds for Frozen Kraken, and in that time I could get a lot of damage inflicted on me. So we're just going to wait till we can cast Frozen Kraken. So he's hitting with the Scorpion and with the trap because on round 1 he did a trap. But you guys can see I didn't get any health from my pet out of all those fights. So just to be safer, right, because I, would rather walk into the next stage more confidently, is we're going to use our Frozen Kraken to kill the mob or kill the boss, whatever. And then we're also going to cast a fairy to get some health back, because sadly our pet didn't heal us. If our pet did heal us, I wouldn't have to need a fairy right here. But it's just to feel more confident moving on to these next stages. And you can see, look, I still have missing HP. Another thing is, you guys got to keep in mind, we do have 9 fairies in our deck. So it's okay to use them 100%. But there we go, stage 1 completed. And make sure you guys buy your deck. Of course, I already have a deck 10 of balanced Deckathalon deck on my Storm, so I'm just buying them for the purpose of the video, right? And you can buy your treasure card display if you want to. I recommend just buying it once. And then the Balance Blade, Scarab, and Tower Shield, I wouldn't buy any of these unless you want to feel quirky, but you don't need them because they're all vendor stuff, so don't worry too much about that. But now let's move on to stage 2. Same thing where we started with stage 1 is where we're actually just going to use Frozen Kraken on the mob. So we're just going to be passing for 2 rounds. We're not going to be using any type of fairy or anything like that. We're just going to be passing for 2 rounds till we can use our Frozen Kraken. At the same time, I am hoping that our pet does heal, just so we can, have a comfortable amount of HP, just casually go through this entire Deckathalon, right? So now we can use our Frozen Kraken. We're just going to do that. And there you go. That's stage 2.1 completed. And then now we're on stage 2.2. Now this is where we're actually going to be using a Tower Shield and we're going to be using a Locust Swarm. So make sure you guys pull them. If not, just discard and just try to pull at least a Tower Shield and a Locust Swarm. So we're going to Tower Shield right now just to minimize the damage that we take from these mobs. Because slowly the damage will ramp up in these fights. And this time around, our pet did heal us, which I will gladly take. That is like an RNG factor of Deckathalon, just because the pet will make you a little bit more comfortable when it comes to like healing and stuff. And of course we have a Pigsy, right? Luckily it depends on how you view it, right? It's going to be the burst heal Pigsy, and some people prefer the hot, and that's completely valid, but the jewel is only going to give you a burst heal. And then you have your Locust Worm. You can kind of pick whoever you want to do it on. Personally, I'm just going to do it on the left one because he has more pips, right? That's how I think about it, but it doesn't really matter because we're still going to use Frozen Kraken on the next one anyways. So we're just going to use Locust Worm on either of the mobs, realistically. And that should just kill them. And then we only have 1 mob left, and then we just hit with the following Frozen Kraken. There you go, we have our Frozen Kraken, and then there you go. And we're moving on to the next fight with full HP, which is good because our pet did give us some heals. There we go, stage 2.2 completed. And now we move on to the boss of stage 2. So 2.3, that's what people call it. So in this fight, same thing as like the first fight of this stage. We're just going to be using Frozen Kraken. And if for some reason you feel like you are really low, you haven't been getting HP from your pet, of course, you can use a fairy if you feel like you need it. But we don't need it, luckily, because our pet did pop off in that last fight, and we're running into this fight with full HP. So we're not actually going to be using a fairy at all. Even though he did a lot of damage with that Locust Swarm, I still feel fine comfortably walking into the next stage. So I'm just going to Frozen Kraken, kill him, and then we can move on to the next stage. There you go, stage 2 completed. And of course, remember, interact with the vendor if you want to eventually craft your deck 5, which I always recommend people to craft your deck 5. And then, of course, you can buy these other stuff if you want to. You can buy the Fang Guardians. I wouldn't buy the Pixie, though, but that's it. So let's move on to the next stage. Now we are on stage 3, so this is 3.1. Same premise. We are going to be using Frozen Kraken. But keep in mind, if I do get weakness in this fight, I will require another Frozen Kraken. And at that point, if I do take a lot of damage, I will have to fairy. So we'll have to see what this mob does and react depending on that. So no weakness this time around. But still, I am taking a lot of damage. My pet isn't healing me, sadly. So we'll pass this round, and hopefully we don't get weakness. If we do get weakness, we will have to use 2 Frozen Kraken. So we'll have to use Frozen Kraken, wait a couple rounds, and then use Frozen Kraken again. And then we'll have to use fairy in case of emergency if I get really low. So that's something you have to remember when you're doing this specific fight. And luckily, I didn't get weakness. Now look, I can fairy in here, and I feel like I am, because I am at 600 HP. Now those middle fights can do a lot of damage to you, personally. So I am going to use Frozen Kraken, and I'm going to fairy. But if you guys do get weakness, remember, you will have to use Frozen Kraken twice, and I would recommend using Fairy if you feel like your HP is getting down in the dumps, because it's possible. So we're gonna use Frozen Kraken, and then also on top of that, we're gonna be using Fairy on ourselves, because I do want to walk into the next fight a little bit more comfortable. Now, of course, if your pet does heal you, it's a little bit RNG dependent, but you won't really need that Fairy if your pet is healing you. You know, it's only if needed. And there you go. Stage 3.1 completed. Now we move on to stage 3.2, which is a little bit more hectic because we actually are going to have to draw for certain cards. So we are going to need our Tower Shields and our Sandstorm, as well as a Fairy, just to have in our hand. So we got to discard all this, right? Because we already have a Fairy, and we don't need Locust Storm in this fight. So we can kind of just discard that and then pull for a Tower Shield. Luckily, I pulled a Tower Shield. So we're going to Tower Shield, and then on the following round, I'm going to try to pull for another Tower Shield. And then after that, we will be using a Sandstorm, as well as a Will Cast to kill one of the mobs. Because, hey, you can still get weakness. Keep that in mind. We can literally still get weakness from these mobs. Oh, so luckily we did pull in our Tower Shield, which our hand is kind of just chilling. We have our Sandstorm, we have our Fairy in case we need it, as well as we have our Tower Shield. So we're going to Tower Shield again, and then the following round we're going to use our Sandstorm. Okay, so now it's the next round. We can use Sandstorm, but make sure you click on your Frozen Kraken first. So you can pick who you want to kill. Obviously, I'm going to kill the left one, just because he has a blade, and I don't want to live, or I don't want to keep him alive. And then, of course, I take more damage because he has a blade. So we'll use Frozen Kraken as well as our Sandstorm. It's only going to do 300, and then that's all we have to do that. Frozen Kraken. And then, of course, if I had a weakness, it would do a little bit less, but with the Frozen Kraken, you'll still kill at least one of the mobs. Now, at this point, we're just going to pass till we get a Frozen Kraken again, and that's to kill the Scarab. Now, at this point in time, you can also Fairy if you need to. If you aren't getting healing from your pet, you can cast a Fairy so you don't walk into the next fight with like low HP. But I'm not going to Fairy yet because he's going to do damage to me. He's not going to do 700 damage, and I'd rather take some damage so I can heal it off. Same thing, I still have 400 HP. He's not going to do 400 damage to me, so I'm not going to Fairy till next round. But you can Fairy at this point too. It doesn't make a difference, right? Because it's not like you're going to be getting any value. You're still going to have the same amount. So I'm just going to wait till next round just so I can show you guys what would happen. Yeah, so like you only did a Scorpion. This 245 wasn't going to die. But we can use our Frozen Kraken as well as Fairy because we do need HP. And sadly, our pet hasn't healed us. That's just the RNG of pets, right? But pets do make it a little bit more comfortable. That's why you want to have Frozen Kraken. You want to have those heals so you can move on to these fights with ease and not have to rely on fairies, which are, like, sadly, we're going to have to do that this time around. And there you go, stage 3.2 completed, and we can move on to this next fight, which is the boss, of course, of stage 3. This is how I view it. So for this fight, we do want to pull our Locust Storm, which is what we're trying to do, which we do have. Now, of course, you do also want to have a Fairy in your hand because you want to make sure you're going into the next stage with high amount of HP, because you will be taking a lot of damage, and there's a lot of and ifs or then in the next fight. So we do want to have a Fairy at our disposal so we can heal. But for this first round, you can just pass and feel a little bit more comfortable. So don't worry too much about this first round. And that will be a lot of damage that I will be taking, of course. Yeah, 335. Still no heal, which is very sad. But we're going to be using our Locust Storm right here. And then the following round, we will be using our Fairy as well as a Will Cast Frozen Kraken. There we go. So now it's the following round. We can use our Frozen Kraken. Of course, click on your Frozen Kraken first. And then, of course, I'm going to use a Fairy because I need HP. I really do. And sadly, my pet hasn't been healing me. And there you go. Stage 3 complete. And then you can talk to Kara, buy your deck, of course. And then you can buy these things if you want to. It is realistically up to you. But I'm not going to buy them. But now we make our way to stage 4, 4.1 specifically. Now this is where we get to and ifs situations. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for our shield. We're also going to be looking for our swarm, as well as we're going to be looking for our armor, our spirit armor, of course. So we're just going to be looking for that. And sadly, I didn't pull it, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it's not the worst thing. We're going to be passing enemies on the first round. So we're going to see what they're doing. But basically, if the enemy does buff right here, which it does, we're going to be using frozen armor. Or not frozen armor, sorry. Spirit armor. They're literally almost identical names. But we got to pull our spirit armor. That's the issue here. Which, there we go. We pull our spirit armor. So since he did buff right here, we are using our spirit armor. But if for some reason he hit down that first round with like Locust Swarm or something, we would be using Fairy instead right here. But we'll use our spirit armor because we want to take less damage, right? That's the whole gimmick. So on round 1, if he did blade, you use spirit armor. If he hits you, right, instead with like a Locust Swarm or something, then you're going to be using a Fairy instead. Luckily, our pet does come in clutch and heal us this time around, because it hasn't been healing. So maybe it's been saving its heals for like the harder fights, which I would appreciate regardless. And we get the double heal too. So we don't need to do anything on this round, right? Because on that previous round, we would have healed or we would have used spirit armor. But now on this round, which is round 3, we can pass as well as use Frozen Kraken. So that's what we're going to be doing, using Frozen Kraken and then passing as well. And then we do have a weakness on us, but it should be fine realistically. But we are casting our Locust Swarm on this round, so that should just realistically kill the Stone Colossus. And then we're walking into the middle fight with literally full HP, which is nice to see. And there you go. Stage 4.1 completed. Now we can do our middle stage, which has the mobs and such, which is 4.2. Now this one's going to be a little bit more hectic because we want to pull our tower shields. We want to pull at least like 4, right? 4 is what we need, as well as we need to pull our sandstorm. But ideally we need to pull our tower shield around 1. So hopefully we can pull that because they will do a lot of damage. So we did pull 1, but we will be keeping a Locust Swarm in our, or not a Locust Swarm, a Sandstorm in our hand, because that is what we need. So we can kind of discard everything. You can carry a Fairy, but you realistically shouldn't need it. I can discard one because I already pulled another, and there you go. So we pulled our Tower Shield for this first round, but we do realistically need to pull another Tower Shield for the second round, because they will be doing a lot of damage to us. It is expected. Yeah, 234. So hopefully we can pull another Tower Shield. That's what we're praying for. We can discard these. Discard this. Okay, we pulled another Tower Shield, and we can discard a Fairy because I already pulled another Fairy. But we still have our Sandstorm, which is what we need. But we're going to be Tower Shielding again. So for 2 rounds straight, just Tower Shield. And luckily our pet healed us, so I will take that regardless. But now we are on the killing round, so essentially we're going to be killing one of them. Now this one is up to you on who you want to kill, and I'm honestly going to kill the left one in this scenario. Now the reason being is just because I don't want to take a bladed hit and take more damage, but ideally you would probably want to kill the newer mob. So, but in my scenario, I'm going to kill the left one just because he has a blade, right? I don't like these blades. So use that, and then we're going to be using Sandstorm. But like I said, you would probably more likely want to kill the Honey Thief, just because like that, for example, I got hit with the weakness. But you ideally would have wanted to kill this one more, but since in my scenario he had a blade, I don't want to take too much damage, and I would prefer getting rid of him just because of that. But we can kind of discard a little bit now, and we need to pull our 2 Tower Shields left. So we're just going to be Tower Shielding twice, and then just hit with the Frozen Kraken, and that's just kind of like the rest of the fight for this particular fight on this stage. And then we can Tower Shield again. This is up to you, personally. But since he didn't hit, there's realistically no reason to Tower Shield, just because Frozen Kraken will realistically kill. But just for the purpose of the strat, we're just going to shield again. Right? That's just realistically it. Hit with the ice this time around, so that's actually good. Take less damage. And then for this one, we're just going to use Frozen Kraken, and that's realistically it. There you go. Stage 4.2 completed. And now we can start our next one, which is the boss of stage 4, which is, it's basically an Oni. That's just this, we're not going to call it Influencer. It's an Oni. So in this fight, we're going to be passing on round 1, so I can talk a little bit for this section. But we are going to be trying to pull our Spirit Armor, which we have, as well as we have our Fairy in hand, which is good. Right, we have everything we want, and we have our Locust Swarm. So we're kind of just like set for this particular one, because we have everything that we want in our hand. So we're good to pass and see what he does. Now, depending on what he does, if he buffs, we are going to Frozen Armor. Or not Frozen Armor, I always confuse them, right? Spirit Armor. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to be using Spirit Armor. And if he did hit us, we would be using Fairy. But since he did buff, we're using Spirit Armor instead. So that's like the and if situation, like the if then situations, or however I call them, right? If they do this, then you do this. If they did this, then you do that type thing. So you did fizzle, which is kind of beneficial for us realistically, but we're gonna be passing anyways on this round, and then we're gonna use our frozen kraken. So make sure you do frozen kraken first, and then you can follow up with your pass. And then the following round, we're just gonna hit with locust swarm. There we go. So now it's down to 220, and then we follow up with our locust swarm, and that will kill the boss. Luckily, we didn't take any damage, but hey, you will most likely take damage. He just decided to trap and blade. It happens. It's RNG. But that's how you act depending on that. There you go. Stage 4 completed. And remember, talk to Kara, buy your deck. You can buy the wash basin if you want to, and then the treasure cards you can buy. I'm actually going to buy this. Dragon Blades are annoying to get for just treasure card stuff. So yeah, I'm going to buy those. But Locust Swarms, don't buy them. You can just, you can get them from the librarian. There's no point. Dragon Blades are a little bit more annoying because you can't get them from a vendor, and they're good for stackability purposes for certain fights. So I'm just going to buy those. But now we make it to stage 5.1. Now this is going to be a lot of if-then situations as well, because we do need to make two things plausible. Ideally, on the first round, we do want to pull our tower shield, and we don't need a fairy in this fight, realistically. But I'm still going to try to pull a tower shield, and hopefully we can pull it, because we are going to need that. And there we go, a little bit more RNG dependent. But we have our tower shield. We do need to pull a armor as well, and we do have an Ellie shield. So we kind of have like a solid hand, but for this first round, we are going to tower shield, of course. And then this next round, we are going to try and use a spirit armor. Depends if we can pull it, which we should be able to. Yeah, because we have a swarm in our hand. Yeah, there we go. So we have our spirit armor. We're going to tower, and then we're going to be using our spirit armor as well. Did get hit with a weakness. That is a little bit more annoying, but it's okay. So we still have our Ellie shields, which are needing in this fight, but make sure you use your Frozen Kraken and then follow up with your Ellie shield, because you do want to have very minimal damage taken in this fight, because this next fight is going to be more annoying, which is stage 5.2. You only took 7 damage from that, which really isn't that big of a deal. And then now we can use our Locust Swarm, which I'm going to do now, just so I can have the option to heal if I need to later. So we're just going to use our Locust Swarm for this particular, since I have the pips, right? I have the pips. The only thing left is just to follow up with a Frozen Kraken, and that's it, right? But we do have our fairy on standby, which is nice, right? We do need that fairy in case. So we're going to pass right here, see what he does, right? We might take a lot of damage depending on what he does. And luckily, I'm going into the next fight with full HP. So right here, you could have healed if you needed to, right? Luckily, I didn't take too much damage. I only took 7 damage. Literally 7. So we're just going to use the Frozen Kraken. That will kill the combat ant. But your situation might be a little bit different. You might have taken a lot of HP, or a lot of damage, right? So you might not have that much HP. So you can use a fairy right here if you needed to. But I don't need to, right? Because I'm going into the next fight completely fine. So we're going to use our Frozen Kraken and move on to the next stage. So it's those little things that you have to keep in mind for stage 5.1, because you want to go into 5.2 with near full HP. So 5.2 does get a little bit more annoying. It definitely is the annoying part of this whole strat, which is we're only allowed to use a certain fraction of our cards. At max, you can only use 3 Ellie shields. We're also going to be using our ice minion as well. We can only use 2 swarms because you don't want to use the third one, since you are using that in the next fight. Now you could technically use that sandstorm that you have in your deck as like an extra card, but I wouldn't recommend it too much. As well as you are going to be able to use your fairies at your disposal. You kind of want to sustain as long as you can in this fight, and then on top of that, just use Frozen Krakens to kill the mobs, as well as use your Locust Swarms. So that's like kind of like the TLDR of this fight. It's a little bit more hectic. So that's why I'm trying to explain this now before I get into the fight, because I'll be like a little bit more focused up. But that's like the whole gimmick around this fight. And then obviously once we get to the final fight, right, we are going to be using more Ellie shields. We're going to use our last Ellie shield. We're going to use some fairies, and we're going to use our tower shields in those fights, as well as that last swarm. So you don't want to overextend and use all your swarms in this fight, because then you'll have no hits for the final fight, and then you get into that little predicament. So there is that. But let's start this fight, see how it goes. Hopefully no mess ups, hopefully no deaths, but we'll have to wait and see. So we can kind of discard a fairy or not. That's like, I don't mind discarding a fairy. We'll eventually have to discard that tower shield since I don't need it, but we are going to Ellie shield right away. And another thing is, right, they can use the LE blast, I think it's called, or LE whatever, right? They can use that as well as they can still use their balance hits. So it's a little bit more annoying. Okay, luckily he did that. And it hit ice, that's perfect. That is literally perfect. But still, does a lot of damage. He did have a blade. He did have a blade. So we can discard this. We got to pull for our minion. Hopefully we can pull it soon. But we're going to do this. Well, luckily, again, hit ice again. Still, though, it's using our shield, which is very annoying. But look, we're already down to 500 HP. See right here, this would be a perfect time to pull the minion because they don't have 4 pips. So we do have multiple swarms, so we can discard one. We can discard a fairy. And we can discard a LE shield because we only are going to need another one. And there we go. So this is all we have at our disposal. So we are going to summon an Ice Guardian so he can take all the damage from us. That's kind of what I want to go for. I'm gonna try to sustain this a little bit longer. We did use 2 LE shields. We are going to use our last one, and this Ice Guardian should take the aggro away from us too. So we are going to be using that particular because it's a little bit more RNG. Now, thing is, they both have 4 pips. Now, I could realistically die on this stage, and it's going to happen. Like that is the thing about this fight. And luckily, we'll see. We'll have to see what happens. I didn't get hit, but I did get hit with the mantle, which is very annoying. We're actually going to heal, just because we do have those fairies at our disposal. We're going to take our fairy. It didn't fizzle. That's good. This is going to do a lot. 600, and thankfully, our pet has healed us in dire need. So that's why a pet is so nice, right? There we go. Now we can go a little bit more rampant and we can combo with our minion. So we're going to use our Frozen Kraken finally because there's an opening for us, right? So we can use Frozen Kraken to kill the left mob as well as use Locust Swarm. And then we're just going to follow up and do the same thing for the next mob. But still, we still have a universal trap on us, right? And the other mob still has a blade. So it's a little bit iffy, but still, this middle fight is very annoying. I do want to preface this a lot. But there we go. At least we got one mob defeated. Now it's just a 1v2 essentially. We do have another fairy if we need to, but we're kind of just wait, right? We're just gonna kind of wait, just because I want to see what he does. He does have a lot of pips, so if he does do damage to us, we can kind of heal it off. As well as the Ice Guardian is gonna do damage for us as well, which is nice. Like that's 500 right there, and we didn't get hit. So realistically, yeah, we can combo with the Ice Guardian, and realistically, we should just kill. You could fairy here if you needed to, but we didn't get hit, so we're kind of fine. And there we go. We walk out of stage 5.2 surviving, right? That's the main gimmick. But that middle fight is very annoying. You're very limited on what you can do. You still have your tower shields, right? You could have technically used a tower shield in that fight, but you do want to keep it for this next fight. And we do want to keep one Locust Swarm for this next fight as well. So we can, on this, realistically, this next fight, we can kind of heal, shield, and then do some damage. And we still have our extra Sandstorm, right? If we do need to use some extra damage, of course. So there's that. And also make sure you guys are feeding your pet whenever you need to. I guess in my case, I'll just feed it now. I don't need to, but we'll just do that. And then we make it our way to the boss of stage 5. So first round, we realistically need to do our LE shield, and then after that we can fairy if we need to. We can, see what we need to do, but it's kind of just like see how much damage we take. Hit fire this time, but still it's gonna do a lot of damage. Yeah, 319. So now we're gonna fairy, gain some HP back, of course, and then on the following round we're gonna shield as well as use Frozen Kraken. So essentially we're going to be doing Frozen Kraken twice and use our Swarm to go for the kill. And if for some reason after all that we don't kill, we can still use that that Sandstorm that we have been holding on to. So now we're going to use our Frozen Kraken as well as Tower Shield. So that's why we're keeping those Tower Shields. But keep in mind, you could have used that one of those Tower Shields in that previous fight if you needed to. And since we're kind of comfortable right here, we do have our 2 shields as well as a backup shield. We are going to do Locust Swarm now, and then of course after that, if I do need to heal at any point, I can. But sadly I fizzled. That's still a chance to happen, so we'll have to see what he does right here. It is going to land on Storm, but we are double shielded. We did have a trap on us, still going to do a good amount of damage, right? But he isn't going to do anything with 2 pips, so we can kind of just use Locust Swarm again. And then, of course, if I fizzle, just cast it again the following round. Yeah, fizzling can still happen, guys. And there we go. We just use our Frozen Kraken, and that's it. Realistically, that is it. And there you go, stage 5 done. Quick little note that I do want to include. Now, if in that fight, this boss fight that I did, I had no Locust Swarms, realistically, if you just spam Frozen Kraken at least 3 times, because you can only do it 3 times, right, in a fight. But once you do it all 3 times, even if you had weaknesses, you still would kill. So if you really needed to use that last Locust Swarm in that previous fight, so the one with the 2 minions, you theoretically could have done that. But for my purpose, I was trying to save it for this last fight just in case. But yeah, you were kind of okay to use more cards. Like realistically, you could have used that extra tower shield in that previous fight as well on those mobs. You could have, remember, saved some fairies if you needed to. You could have used those. And then as well as you could have used Sandstorm. But if you are going to use that last Locust Swarm in that previous fight, in this boss fight for sake, you would have to, you know, sustain, try to take as like less damage as possible. You'd want to heal and try to use your Frozen Krakens as fast as you can, because you are gonna like have to cast them every 2 rounds. So that is something you have to consider. And then yeah, you do have your Sandstorm, but still, you still would have to use Frozen Krakens. But that's like the whole gimmick behind this. The 5.2, 5.3 is a little bit more iffy, and that's why you have to use those specific cards. But yeah, now you get to deck 5, and then you can buy whatever. You can buy your Essence Elixir if you really want to, if you want to craft those anytime. Dark Packs, actually isn't a bad thing to buy just because they're not from a vendor, so you can kind of buy these. And then Sandstorms I want to buy, but yeah, there's that. But make sure you buy your deck 5. And that's basically it. That is the Deckathalon stages 1 through 5 for balance. We're not going to do stage 6. We're just going to back our way out of here and pretend that we didn't see that. If you guys want to see higher stage runs, let me know, right? I can definitely do them. They're just not like a main priority right now because, hey, I've only been focusing on stages 1 through 5 because realistically, people just want to craft a deck 5 for, you know, Skull and Syndiate stuff, or having that extra percentages for backdraft, for the item card, specifically item card backdraft. So those little things, or people just want to max out their bar on their thing so they can actually redeem the pet. Because that is a highlight that people go for, is that people want to collect the pet and people want to get a deck 5 so they can have it for their characters, which is very understandable. I'm not going to complain about it, but I do get it, right? I completely do get it. And yeah, hope you guys got a better understanding. Like I said at the beginning, shout out to Logan, shout out to Shabazz for the strats and for helping me make these videos, because without them, these videos wouldn't exist realistically. So keep that in mind. And if you guys have any more questions, let me know in the comments down below. If not, join Discord. There's plenty of people that know certain things about Deckathalon, so you can definitely ask them if you need to. And yeah, that's realistically it. But that is it for me, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.